What's up, YouTube, fellow fragrance enthusiasts? This is Galataki coming this evening with Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Oud Silk Mood, better known as MFK Oud Silk Mood. I'm doing this fragrance because we have the cool months coming up, depending on where you live in the world. Where I live, it's going to get stupidly cold and somewhat miserable, even though it's contrasted with white, snowy, icy beauty. This fragrance, though, is pretty much the opposite of that. It is quite a moist, reminiscent fragrance. I feel like this is kind of one of those artwork type fragrances that can take you back to a particular place had you grown up in the right setting. Very simple note list. Oud, what they list as natural oud, okay, and then we have chamomile, papyrus, and Bulgarian rose. So your typical oud rose combo to start. Now the Bulgarian rose in here, from the other roses I've smelled, it's definitely a different rose, reminiscent of the roses Kurkdjian seems to use in his Eternal Oud. So I like that right off the bat. The cool thing about this fragrance, though, is that it smells moist, kind of strange. Their website also describes it as being quite airy. The word I would use would be transparent. I think airy could be justified because the silage on this is quite nice. Has excellent silage for me for quite some time. Projection is also very well too, which is why I think airy is an odd word to use for this one. I like to use the word transparent for fragrances like this because if you know how to sift through fragrances on your skin, you will be able to pick out each note if you're careful. Even this papyrus concoction is there. It lends a drying factor to the fragrance. Spraying this on my skin, honestly, as it dries down, is almost like spraying it on an old dry piece of paper. Now the word papyrus is not the same thing as paper. It's a ancient paper, of course, and I don't remember what material it's made out of, but it is not your typical wood pulp paper. So with that in mind, we'll move forward. I get a good solid 8 hours out of this one. It actually lasts longer, but when I say solid 8 hours, I reckon that's the standard that people look for, a workday standard for wearing fragrance. I don't believe this leans masculine, nor do I believe it leans feminine. I believe this is unisex completely, depending on your chemistry. The price tag for this one as well is quite high, so I would not blind buy this at all, unless you are just looking to throw your money away, or if you know that you have someone who will buy it from you. Because while it's not a polarizing fragrance, it's not really risky either. It could turn you off. It's pungent. It's very potent. And it could play out the wrong way on your skin. I feel like because it is oud and because it is rose and the way it starts, I feel like this scent could probably sour on the wrong person's skin. And that would be a tragedy because this is 375 pounds for their bottle. Now granted, you get a lot of presentation with that. You get a lovely, lovely box, and you also, it looks kind of like a book. You also get a lovely designed bottle. If you've seen any of his bottles, they're all the same, but the presentation is very well done. He'll even go so far as to engrave, I believe, either the box or the bottle, perhaps both. I don't honestly remember off the top of my head, but there's some good personalization in their presentation, which is always a lovely thing if you have that sort of dough to spend. Moving forward from there, compliment factor, and what I consider a compliment is unsolicited. I've gotten quite a few, which was shocking to me. You know, they were during the warm summer months, and it was only an application of 2 sprays, and they were on my wrists, so a good pulse point. And from those wrists, the projection is quite good, and I went that way because I knew I was going to be in a place of business where I would be moving my hands during a transaction. So I kind of wanted to provoke one But at the same time, I went light on the trigger because this stuff is so potent. When you spray it on, you know people are gonna smell it. You know that you won't have to ask, "Can you smell me?" I feel like this is one of those fragrances that if they don't say anything, they like it. I feel like if they didn't like it, you'd probably know right away because it honestly has that kind of strength to it for me. The Drydown is very well done. I feel like none of the notes dissipate in this, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate the short note list because of that. Oftentimes in these very complicated, rather I should say complex fragrances, the notes, because of the way it's blended, they disappear. They create new fragrances that really, you read a note list and you're like, why am I smelling this and not that? You know, that happens from time to time. I've got quite a few where that happens, so you really have to play with it in order to figure it out. So with this one, it's not like that at all. Another reason I say this one is safe is because it doesn't lean towards barnyard or medicinal when it comes to the oud. I feel like the chamomile and the rose calm this down enough to keep it safe. The oud is definitely there. It seems highly concentrated. It's reminiscent of some other oud rose-based fragrances, as I said before. And that's always kind of funny. You would think it might get old, and to some people it probably does, but for me it actually is kind of humorous to smell this combo and then smell another combination of rose and oud and get the same thing, or rather I should say a similar thing. Now if I got the same thing, I'd probably be like, what the heck? But this is not the case. The chamomile and the papyrus on the Drydown I feel lend a good confident tone to this. Every time I've worn it, I've felt very confident. I've been able to smell myself the entire time while wearing it, so there is no anosmic things playing around. I don't get used to it. I feel like if I wore it for a week straight, I'd be able to smell it most of the time. It doesn't get peppery or that woody sort of oud scent that I'll get after a long, like if I wear it for 13-14 hours without washing myself. I don't feel like I get that woody sort of peppery oud scent that I'm used to. So that's a bit unusual, but for some folks they might like that. And I feel like because of that, it definitely stays in the unisex section of fragrances. There's not really a whole lot I can say past that. It's quite transparent again, but it holds a lot of body to it. I feel like this could honestly be, and this is a word I don't use very often, I feel like this could be a sexy fragrance. It's got that air about it. It is really, it could be sexy. It's really weird for me to say that, but it has an alluring sort of effect to it, and I would attribute that to the word silk in the title. It has a silky sort of way of going through the Drydown. It's very touchable and almost tangible. I feel like if you smelled this on a woman or someone of the opposite sex and you were well versed and into this sort of fragrance, you would want to touch this person, assuming you found them attractive. You would definitely want to be close to them. I honestly feel like if I were to smell this on another person, I would want to find them and go, just sort of look at them and go, who is this wearing this? Because it is just not something I smell in my town. I mean, we don't have any fragrance boutiques. We have a Macy's, alright? And one county over, I've got a mall with a kiosk, and a fairly uneducated, he's a lovely person, but as far as fragrances that he carries go, he's not as well educated as I might like a representative to be. With it being Macy's, you're not going to get any information at all if you're like me, and that's it's just how it goes. So yeah, you know, safe, good fragrance, good longevity, good projection for a while. It's the projection is on par for what I would consider bottle worthy. It's not outrageous. It's not beast mode, as that phrase has been coined. Definitely not beast mode. I feel like the lasting power is probably on par with this beast mode, because it will last into the next day, absolutely, assuming you're not rubbing up all on somebody or handling a lot of materials or things that are going to cause the scent to rub off. But it will stay on you for well over 12 hours, up to 24 hours easily, even with just your normal application of 2 to 3 sprays. Now if you sprayed it 2 to 3 times on the same spot, yeah, it's going to last a long time. It's probably going to be beast mode, but I don't wear my fragrance like that. To recap, transparent, good silage, good projection, and great lasting power. It's safe in that it doesn't go from one way to another. It's not polarizing. It's definitely unisex as well. I believe this could work in the summer and the winter. Age group wise, I would not pin this on any sort of age group, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if you're wearing it, you're an adult. You certainly, unless you are some child, you're an adult if you're wearing this. I can't imagine you wouldn't be. And occasion-wise, this is not really something to wear around the house, I don't think, unless you're like me and you study it. But even when I do study it, I wear it out in public. I feel like this could be a great casual scent when you go out with people, especially somewhere outdoors on a cool spring, summer evening, or if you're indoors somewhere during the fall and winter months. Definitely, it's a going out type of fragrance. I wouldn't say that you have to be in a suit and tie or formal or anything like that, but it's definitely a going out type of scent. It's got that sort of power to it, and very appealing. I think that's really about it as far as this goes. It's definitely got an upvote from me. Full bottle worthy, absolutely, after you've tested it and tried it. So, you know, it's very cool. Now, before I end the video, I just want to take a minute and talk about exactly what I want out of my channel now that I'm recording again and partaking in the community. If you go back and watch my videos, you'll probably notice that I do not really ever talk bad about a fragrance. I don't say that this is crap. I don't ever really say that I wish it had this or I wish it had that. And that is because most of the fragrances I review are unusual to some extent. They're almost always niche, and I don't really think that it would be appropriate for me to say that a fragrance in the niche world is bad, and that is because a chemist is trying to form an interpretation of what the designer wants it to be, and I can appreciate that. My reviews will always be objective. I try not to let a personal opinion affect too much on the composition of the fragrance. Now, obviously, personal opinion will play a part in whether I say it smells good on me or not, but you have to keep in mind that these types of fragrances are meant to work with your skin and your skin chemistry. So if anybody is new to this and watching my video for whatever reason, always keep that in mind, that not every fragrance is going to work on you, and you really must keep an open mind for it. With that being said, I have had folks request that I review or ask opinion. You know, I've had people ask me my opinion on a certain fragrance. Now, I would absolutely love to get around to doing that sort of thing. Unfortunately, right now, the type of following I have isn't big enough for me to justify the money, my personal money, being spent on that type of thing. If there's ever a time where you would like me to review a fragrance, I would be willing to go into it. I have done it for one person before, and they know who they are. It was in the Oud family of fragrances, and there was a lot of, there were other factors behind testing it, and I'm very glad I did. But, you know, if you ever want to help out, and that's hard for me to actually say, but, you know, if we want to do that kind of thing, I'm more than willing to. Just let me know what it is you want out of it, what fragrance, and you know, I'll do my best to make that happen if you like my style of reviewing. And you know, please feel free to share my videos if you like, link them or whatever it is you'd like to do, because I would definitely like to reach a wider audience. I really enjoy feedback on this type of thing because I'm such an objective person. I don't really get offended by anything when it comes to this type of thing, and anybody who wants to say anything stupid, I'm just going to ignore it anyway. So don't hesitate to leave your feedback, leave your comments, suggestions, comparisons even. If you want to leave a comparison type of comment, they're more than welcome. I think the next few videos I'm going to do are going to be designer fragrances, and I mean commercial designer. I don't really like them, but I will comment on that and explain why when I get around to doing that. Probably going to put out another video tomorrow, and I'll start with one of my commercial designers. So until then, I appreciate you watching. Hopefully I'll be able to hear from you, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again.